sometimes you find yourself aligned on a particular issue with people or organizations that often are opposed to your goals.
Welcome to the Hen Report. This is Mariann Sullivan. Jasmine won't be with us this week. She's a bit under the weather, but she is doing great. She's fine. So not to worry, and she'll be back soon. But I am so excited that we're going to be joined once again by our regular wingman, Michael Dorf, who is, of course, a professor at Cornell Law School and is also a very prestigious constitutional law scholar, but most importantly, is a passionate vegan and animal advocate. And welcome back, Michael.
Thanks so much. This is a great honor. It's very big shoes I'm trying to fill in for with Jasmine, but I'll do my best.
I have a lot of confidence, but I agree. It's a stretch. And happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're recording this on my actual birthday. By the time you're listening to it, I will be a day older or so. But yeah, it's very exciting. Today's my birthday.
Yeah, what a wonderful way to celebrate it by coming up to the Art House podcast.
Hey, no, it's a promotion. I mean, I guess I'm now like, whatever you are when you're even more than a wing for today.
I'm a little worried about that wingman designation because I noticed that now it's constantly used to describe the relationship between Epstein and Trump. So I don't want it to turn into an insult.
No, I get that. I will. I didn't take it that way.
Right.
So for my birthday, of course, I have to do something. So my daughter Amelia, who I think was on the show as like a very, very little kid.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, she's home still for break from college. She's a senior at Smith College.
Senior? Holy moly!
Yeah, but she's making me vegan shakshuka. And she baked bagels yesterday, so I'm going to have one of the bagels with that. I've already had 3 of the bagels, so
yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
I mean, having a bagel maker in the house would be hard for me. I might have eaten more than 3. I love a bagel.
Yeah, well, she's an excellent cook generally, so it's
yes. No, I've heard of her cooking, her legendary cooking before, and she inherits it, no doubt, from both of her parents, and I'm just curious. I saw your post actually on social media about the bagels, and you said they were as good as H&H, which if you're from New York City, that's like the highest compliment that can be given to a bagel. And H&H doesn't exist anymore, so it's
right. There is something called H&H now. It's an offshoot, but the original store on Broadway and 80th Street has been gone for over a decade, unfortunately.
And the bagels were legendary. And New Yorkers tend, whether they're Jewish or not, tend to insist that they are the only people who understand the difference between a bagel and a roll. And in other places, you get a roll, and it's like any other roll. And rolls are delicious, but it ain't a bagel. Because a bagel, the way I always put it, a bagel kind of bites back, or at least resists, puts up a good fight. So how are bagels really that good?
Yeah, they're, I might, she told me I could post the recipe. It's not her original recipe. It did take her a long time. It involved making the dough a day ahead of time.
Oh, it's complicated, I know.
Overnight in the refrigerator. So, yeah, it was
You have to boil them, process.
Right? Yeah. You boil them, then you bake them.
That's key.
Yeah.
Boiling. Yeah. No, when you get a bagel that's just like a roll, a nice roll, but it hasn't been boiled. I mean, that's really central to the process.
Right. And of course, for our listeners, it's important to note that most bagels you get at a bagel bakery are vegan, unless it's, a bagel with like cheese on top.
Right.
But often supermarket bagels are not, because they've got a gazillion ingredients and they put, some sort of dairy or egg derivative in them. Often.
That's really a good point. I'm not sure I really knew that. I don't buy a lot of bagels in the supermarket, so it's never been a concern. But
no bagels.
I do, unless it's called an egg bagel, I usually assume that it's vegan. So that's good to know. Very useful information already. And perhaps we'll go on to there are a few things that we talked about that we wanted to talk about. And one of them is the thing I call the strange Bedfellows discussion. And this has been coming up in a couple of different ways in recent days. Can you explain? Explain what I mean. If you are able. If you get it wrong, I'll correct you. And why there are a couple of stories right now that are really bringing up this really what is kind of a quandary for vegans or vegan advocates.
Yeah. So the notion of strange bedfellows, of course, is not just about veganism. It's with respect to any social or political movement. Sometimes you find yourself aligned on a particular issue with people or organizations that often are opposed to your goals. And that's called just strange bedfellows. Here, for us, the stories involve entities that we think, like the Trump administration, are not generally advancing the cause of justice, but doing things that, in this case, and there's no need to be coy about it, it's the HHS announcement by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that they're going to phase out government funding of animal testing, right? They're doing things that, we applaud and have worked for. And
which we kind of never thought was going to happen. It's
yeah,
unbelievable.
right.
Unbelievable news.
Right. And of course, because so much of the medical research and other research that's done on animals is federally funded, the elimination of federal funding for animal research it's not entirely eliminating animal research in the United States, but it goes a long way towards that goal. And so, so that's a great development. But, you want to be careful not to praise the people doing it too much, because they're also doing a bunch of terrible things. And so that's sort of the quandary, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, when we were talking about whether we would talk about this, I think it occurred to me that this hasn't happened that much in the animal movement. I'm sure there have been situations before, but it's usually that nobody agrees with us about anything. So we don't have this quandary of like what to do when they agree with us about something like we shouldn't test on animals anymore, but they have other bad things that we don't agree with. I won't characterize them as good or bad. And so it's I would say this is a new step in the movement when particularly there has been more indication on the right, and even on the Trump right, which is basically the right these days, of being interested in the animal rights issue. I mean, there was the squirrel issue. Remember the squirrel who was killed?
Yeah, of course, Peanut the squirrel.
Yeah, I mean, so this is something I think that we have to think about our strategies with. The other incident that you brought up, which I had wanted to talk about and I didn't know how to talk about it, so I'm glad that you did, was the death of Brigitte Bardot.
Yeah, so right, that poses a similar issue because Brigitte Bardot, as I'm sure our listeners know, after retiring relatively early from acting, became an animal welfare activist. She was not a vegan. She was not in favor of animal rights as I would define it, but she did a lot of good.
Yeah,
she created
did a lot
foundation.
Of good.
She created a foundation that was effective across a range of issues. But she was also a xenophobic, a nativist, Islamophobic, homophobic, and quite outspoken in various of those views in ways, make it such that one doesn't want to praise her overall, but you still want to acknowledge the work that she did. I mean, if I can draw an analogy, I think it's a little bit like the situation we face for anybody in the relatively distant past who did things that we then subsequently built upon, but was either involved in some very great evil. So I think about, Thomas Jefferson pens the Declaration of Independence with all this great language.
But is kind of the poster child for this whole problem.
Right. But he's an enslaver. And so you don't want to in any way excuse that or say it's just a product of his times, because there were of course, people who recognized the evil of slavery at the time, not least the people who were themselves enslaved. But I think you can have some nuance about it and nonetheless say that the good they did was good. And whether that, you might not give them an award for that, posthumously or otherwise, but I don't think you have to therefore say that it's tainted or you want to minimize it in some way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're coming out of a period, you may or may not agree, the last decade, where the world in general, or at least political factions, and particularly on the left, though not actually, that's probably not true. Probably just in the U.S., got very like you have to agree with everybody about everything, or you don't agree with them at all. Like it got very lost the ability to be nuanced. Whereas everybody knows that different people have different opinions about different things, and you can agree with them about. I mean, this is just a fact of human nature. Like if you've lived in the world, this is how it is. But the challenge, I guess, is trying to keep your always the challenge with animals, your communication very nuanced and not make clear that you don't agree with this person about everything, but you happen to agree with them about this. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you make it clear. But I think we've, to some extent, not just the animal movement, but a lot of people kind of lost that ability. Like that you've spoken about this before in talking about intersectionality. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it can get very much like this idea that you have to agree with somebody about everything, like every single point of view they have means whether they're a good person or a bad person, and you can only agree with good people. Like it just got very lumped in all together. Whereas I think it's absolutely crucial for people who care about animals to recognize there are people all over the lot on different issues who care about animals. I mean,
Yeah. So
that's just a fact. We need those people, and I think they're a way. Sorry, just finish this thought or I'll forget it. It's also a way to challenge people that you agree with on other issues who maybe don't get it about animals and saying, why are these people right about this and you haven't given this issue any serious thought?
yeah,
It's kind of useful.
I think that's fundamentally right. I might distinguish a little bit between people who express views with which one disagrees and people who are actually doing bad things in addition, right? That is, it. I absolutely agree that you have to form coalitions with people who disagree with you. I think you can even, I could even say that you have to sometimes swallow hard and form coalitions with people who are doing things that you don't like, at least if they're sort of perpendicular to what you're trying to accomplish. There is, of course, there's the risk of being too much of a purist and insisting on down the line agreement is you don't have any allies at all. So that's especially
Right.
a problem for a small movement
Because we don't
like
have a
ours.
whole lot anyway. So
Right. But the one thing I thought about that was a little bit of a risk in the animal testing context is I read some of the stories about the decision, and there's something of a worry about guilt by association, right? So if RFK Jr. is the one who's pushing the elimination of animal testing, there's some risk that his, for lack of a better term, general crankiness, by which I don't mean he's like, his mood. I mean, he's a crank,
yeah.
right? That the, his tendency to promote pseudoscience and to, say all sorts of things that are,
Well,
right.
vaccines.
Yeah, all
Did
of
we
that
say
stuff.
anymore?
Right.
Vaccines.
Yeah. So that there's a risk that comes to result in guilt by association
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
elimination of animal testing, right? Because even in some of the articles I read about this, there are lots of mainstream scientists quoted as saying things like, oh, if it were not for animal testing, we wouldn't have this, that, or the other drug. Some of which might be true. Although
Absolutely.
although as you've pointed out on the show, right, if we hadn't had animal testing, 30 years ago when some important breakthrough was made, we might have had some other way of testing it. And there are other breakthroughs and so forth. But, if a person who's not already steeped in our movement, but is queasy about animal testing, reads a news story in which they see on the one side RFK Jr.
Yeah.
and on the other side these mainstream doctors and medical researchers saying, oh no, we can't afford to do this, they're, I think, likely to think, oh, well, this is just RFK being a nut again, as opposed to it being, promoted by PCRM or Aisha Akhtar, somebody who's actually, who actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are serious challenges here, and serious communication challenges, serious questions about how to use these kind of things. One of the things I think that is important, and I actually talked about this. My interview with Wayne Shun goes up on Friday, but I talked to him briefly about it because I already recorded that interview. Is that it? This having been said, um, by RFK Jr., it is very important that animal groups work on it quickly, and get something in place, and turn it into some kind of reality. And like PCRM is all over that. They're really making some proposals, very reasonable proposals. Closing the primate centers is one of them, which would
Right.
be huge, and that could be, and turning them into sanctuaries. Don't you just love that suggestion? That is actually something they could do. They probably wouldn't need any kind of congressional approval or anything. Not that they give congressional approval
Right.
when
It's
they
not
need
something they
it.
care about generally. Right.
But yeah, and then always, just the other answer is just to always be really careful with your communication. It's hard. It's hard to hit, strike and, make clear to people you agree with them about some things and don't agree with them about others. It's tough, but that's the burden we are saddled with. Oh, is saddled a bad, might be a bad
Yeah, there's
word
probably
to use.
some more vegan-friendly metaphor,
Yeah.
our burden to bear.
I just wanted to mention
Yeah.
too, when we first started talking about this, you didn't mention, but there was another progressive move by the administration in the National Defense Authorization Act.
Oh, right. This is about the using animals as target
Yeah,
shooting. Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's been
They've
signed
ended
into
that
law.
too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
I mean, that's not just the administration. That's Congress, right? And
yeah,
so that's pretty important.
really good to say. Yeah. Well, I just feel in general there are a lot. I mean, now I'm going to go off into total my opinions about the world kind of stuff, but there are a lot of people I think scrambling to get stuff done before the midterms. Thinking that after then, they're not going to have the ability. And, I'm glad to now join that group of people. But let's get some stuff done before the midterms.
Yeah, sure. It's weird in this situation to think that, this is something we need to get done before the midterms, before RFK Jr. gets reined in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Because
I mean, I think a lot of people, I think has to do with why we went into Venezuela so quickly. The people are scrambling to get their favorite projects done. That's my opinion. And because, not that, who knows what'll happen at the midterms. I mean, hopefully we'll have fair elections. We don't actually know that. But assuming we do, well, there's going to be a lot of brakes put on. And so now that there's something the Trump administration is doing that, we're all over. And, once you do it, it's hard to undo it, as so many of the things that they're doing, you could say that about. But once you close those primate facilities and make them into sanctuaries, then do you have to pass a law and turn sanctuary animals into experiments? That is it's a lot harder to go back. In most of those situations, we're not pleased about that, but in this one, we could be.
Yeah, that's right. In general, the approach has been that they do stuff and then the burden to undo it is harder. And generally, we don't like that, but here maybe we do. Did we want to talk about
Strange Bedfellows?
Yeah. Did we want to talk about the FarmKind issue or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know I'm going on and on. We don't have all the time in the world. It's your birthday and you have other things to do, but I do want to talk about FarmKind. And people have probably heard about this controversy, or a lot of people probably have. And I did give you a caveat. I mean, I was one who suggested talking about it, so it wasn't like you were pushing me. But our hen house has always taken the position that we don't bring on people. Not that we're bringing you on. I mean, I'm the one who started the conversation. But we don't use the podcast to criticize other people in the movement. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's fine. It's just not our shtick, or our the work that we do, because this hasn't become an issue much in recent days, but in the beginning, that was a lot of what was going on, and we wanted to do something different. And so this is in that ilk, but it's just such a bit. I think this issue, it blew up to be so big within the vegan movement, and also it's just so interesting and it really needs unpacking. So I did ask you to come on and talk about it. I am happy to approach it. You can approach it however you want. I'm happy to approach it thinking that the intent on the behalf of FarmKind is completely benign. They're trying to do their best to help animals. I mean, if people think that they have taken the wrong route, which, I kind of do, that's one thing. But, if you think something, a lot of people, on social media just think they're monsters. But, I'm not going to think that. I think that they thought this was a good idea. All right. With that introduction, can you, for those people who aren't really familiar with the controversy, can you tell them what FarmKind is and what they
Sure.
did that kind of brought them into the light?
Yeah, so FarmKind is an organization that essentially directs donations to other animal welfare, animal rights organizations. And they've launched a campaign, the goal of which is to persuade people who are consuming animal products to essentially buy offsets. So it's similar to offsets in other contexts, right? So if you're worried about your impact on the environment from flying on an airplane, you can purchase an offset, and then some third party will, plant a bunch of trees. I should say that in the environmental or carbon context, offsets are controversial for two main reasons. One is that it's not clear that they actually do what they promise. That is, I don't mean that they just take your money and do nothing. But what I mean is that it's not clear that planting the trees, even if they're doing it, is actually sinking carbon equivalent to what the airplane is creating in proportion to your flight, because there's no real monitoring of that. So that's one concern. And then the other concern is, it's been compared to papal indulgences of the Middle Ages, right, whereby, you do something bad and then you buy your way out of it. And if you think that that's not the way morality works, right? You wouldn't say, well, I murdered 3 people, but I also, gave a bunch of money to organizations that saved 5 lives in the developing world. So on net, I've done good, right? You might think that this is problematic. So anyway, so there's a question about offsetting in the first place. But I think I share your general sense that I wouldn't criticize FarmKind for promoting offsets if all that FarmKind were doing was saying to people who are going to be consuming animal products anyway, hey, you're doing this thing that's causing harm to animals, it's causing environmental harm. How about you try to mitigate that by buying these offsets, and that'll give money to animal rights and animal welfare organizations that are going to do some good for
Yeah.
animals.
I mean, even there, I think a discussion is warranted.
Yeah, I know, I agree.
I'm not
but,
clear that
but
that's a great idea, but that's not,
well,
it went far beyond
yeah,
that.
right. I think if you were so if you think about it as an individual conversation in which you were talking to somebody who was sincerely concerned, and your first pitch was, well, you should go vegan, and and
Yeah.
they say, well, I'm just not going to do that. You might include this as one of your backup strategies, and I think that would be I'm not sure I would do it, but I wouldn't criticize somebody who took that approach.
Right. And I mean, can I just add something to that?
Yeah, of course.
Because I think also you might have it in your mind, and maybe they have it in their mind, that it is a way to get them thinking about the issue that might actually encourage them to do more than just making that donation. I'm not sure
Sure.
that's true, but it could be a strategy to try to get beyond that resistance when you suggest to somebody that they change what they're going to eat.
Right. But what created the controversy was FarmKind was promoting this offset strategy as a superior alternative to Veganuary, and generally, therefore, to going vegan. Right? They actually had a competitive eaters that they were sponsoring to, who were going to offset it. And so the idea was, hey, look, if you go vegan, you're gonna be denying yourself all these great foods you like. It's going to be difficult. You're going to be a pain in the butt to your friends at restaurants and at holidays. Just eat whatever the heck you want and give us a bunch of money. That's much better. And so maybe this warrants an exception to the general practice of not criticizing other people's activism for people who are criticizing other people's activism, right?
Good point.
So I I shared. I mean, I didn't join the online in saying anything about this, but I shared the view of those people concerned about this online, that this was problematic. And it's, in my view, it's problematic for two reasons, right? One is that there's no reason why you couldn't be vegan and also give money to
Yeah.
animal
There's
welfare
no
organizations.
inconsistency there at all.
Right, right. So even if your goal is just to raise lots of money, you don't need to say that other thing. And then the second reason is, like, I think this is really destructive, especially because, even if you're thinking about this from an effective altruism or effective activism perspective, right? We know that a lot of the positive change that has come in the last few years has been from people who are reducing their animal consumption. And so by telling people not just don't observe Veganuary, but eat whatever you want, and what they want are animal products, you're actually undermining not just veganism, but these other sort of partial approaches. And and so in a way, the real problem I think with this FarmKind approach is that it does exactly the thing that you're trying to avoid in not wanting to criticize people's activism, which is to say, we have the answer,
Yeah.
and this is
Yeah.
the one thing you should do. Whereas, as I think you say regularly on this and the related Our Hen House universe of podcasts, right?
It's three.
We don't know what works, so let's try everything.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think it's particularly ironic that they chose Veganuary of all things to make the bad guy here. Which is making the wrong ask, because Veganuary doesn't really ask people to go vegan. I mean, they're not hardcore. They approach it in a very kind of gentle way. Try it out for a month. And then, see, maybe you'll want to stick with it, and maybe, I don't know whether they specifically say it, but inherent that is that, well, maybe you won't stick with it, but maybe you'll cut down. It's a gentle approach. It's not really a hardcore approach. It would make more sense if they were going, it was a vegan or die kind of campaign. And
Right.
I also, all right, this is getting a little further afield, but the whole approach of the idea that we can end the suffering on factory farms by fixing factory farms and eating the same amount or even more of meat is it that's not right. I mean, quantity is a problem and price is a problem, and we cannot fix factory farming. I mean, we can fix some of the worst abuses and stay within the price range that we are at now. But we can't fix factory farming. We can't make these animals' lives okay. So that whole theory that it's possible either on an individual basis or on a global basis to eat the same amount of meat and factory farming, that no, that's a lie. That's really not true. I will say, um, I looked this morning for their website because they had a website for this campaign, which was called Forget Veganuary, and it's down. So maybe they rethought.
So the social media mob was successful.
I think so. Yeah, there were two articles in mainstream UK publications, The Independent and the Daily Mail, um, because they were focusing on the fact that this woman who used to work at Veganuary was now working on this campaign. So I don't know what was going on there, but so the moment on this may have passed, but it was certainly very thought provoking.
Yeah, no, that's right. And again, I think this relates to the stories we began with, right, about strange bedfellows. Right, this is not a case of strange bedfellows. These are people who do care about the same things we care about. I mean, we don't know what their views are on sort of collateral issues, but that's not really what they're focusing on. But again, it's the question of um, with whom do you make common cause? And I feel like I'm happy to make common cause with people that, take different views on different issues, but it's a little difficult if they're directly undermining what I think of as my core commitment, which is to veganism for, the animals principally, but also for the environment and then for health reasons.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that comparison, because in my notes, when I said when I started the notes on the FarmKind controversy, I said in my notes, this seems related in some way to the first issue, but I'm not sure how. So thank you for explaining that to me, like how these two things,
Sure.
because it feels related, and you've exactly pinned down why these actually are kind of related. And both have a lot to do with just the care we take in communicating what we want and what we think people should do. So that's all I have for this week. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say, so I was just thinking about my birthday. So this not on my birthday, but later in this year will be my 20th anniversary of becoming vegan.
Mazel tov.
So yes, thank you. I'm not planning a big party. I don't actually remember what the exact date was, because at the time it didn't occur to me to make a
Right.
note of it.
I'm the same.
Yeah. But, I was reflecting a little bit on how things have changed during just the time that I've been vegan, which is, less time than you have. And this is sort of in relation to your first story on rising anxieties this week, right? Which is that, the movement sort of hit a peak a few years ago, and we seem to have come down a little bit from that. But I do think that we're just much farther along than we were 20 years ago.
Oh, so much.
When I started in this. I mean, just to give you a funny example, my father, who was not vegan, but for years would pronounce the word vegan. And eventually, he died in 2020, but eventually, before that, he came around to saying vegan.
Progress.
But and he was very supportive, and he only ate vegan with me. But I think it was just an unfamiliar word to him 20 years ago when I started doing this, and now it's much more routine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very different landscape out there. Unfortunately, it hasn't meant an enormous amount of progress for animals, because the numbers are so psychotic.
No, that's right.
But it's very different. And if you're lucky enough to have been there, and I was, and you were, you really do see the difference. I mean, and we have to take into account, as Jessica Scott Reed did in that article, which was great, the industry, which is huge, has fought back tooth and nail. I mean, as I say every week on Rising Anxieties, they're worried about something, and they're worried about us.
Yep. Well, let's keep them worried.
Yeah, let's make them. I'm going to have something delicious for lunch just to worry them. Thank you so much for joining us today, Michael. And
my pleasure. It was a great honor.
Thank you. And for everybody out there, we're back to our regular schedule. We made a few changes for the holidays, but the holidays are over. And just a reminder, Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report this on Thursdays, and the long form interview on Fridays. This week's interview, as I mentioned, will be a catch up with Wayne Shung and his study in seminary, which has gotten interrupted for pretty dramatic reasons, and how it relates to some new ideas he has on how to make progress for animals, which I would say he's thinking through some things. So it was a fascinating conversation. And then my bonus for Flock members with a little extended conversation with Wayne comes out on Monday. Don't forget, we're a podcast and we're on YouTube. Please subscribe and hit like wherever you listen. I can't tell you how much that helps us. And thanks for tuning in. Subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. And you can donate and become a Flock member at ourhenhouse.org/support. Thanks so much for being here.